If you're interested in what I look like in real life and want to learn more about me, then follow my Instagram page at Joe the Insomniak. This happened 17 years ago. It's the summer of '99. I was spending the vacation with my mother in New Mexico. I was a 12-year-old girl, going 21, and had a severe attitude. I made friends easily with a few girls that lived around the corner from my mum's home. We spent every moment together that summer. We were a group of 4. All of us thinking we're older and smarter than everyone else. There was Nikki, Katie, Julie and myself. We're the last generation of home phone lines, playing outside on the trampoline until dark and sleepovers. We watched VHS tapes. We would listen to cassette tapes on our Walkman. It was okay to let your children walk around town at night, and we rarely locked the front door. We had no cell phones or internet. My backyard had a concrete wall around it and a gate. Behind the wall was desert as far as the eye could see. Just a barren wasteland of dirt, cacti, shrubs and mountains way off in the distance. This town had a major railroad track running straight through it, and there was a major street that had a gas station, restaurants, hotels and attractions. We all received the same warnings from our parents. Stay away from the desert, stay away from the tracks, don't walk the main strip at night. Do you think we listened? Absolutely not. Julie, Nikki and I spent our days walking through the desert, crossing the tracks down the strip to Katie's home. Sometimes we would walk around until dusk. No. Some days we would just go to my home and jump on the trampoline. This particular day, we got to Katie's home, prepared to stay the weekend because her parents are out of town and we're having a party. The first night the girls were jumping from a spiral staircase to a giant beanbag. I refused to participate in this due to my extreme fear of heights. When we got down to the sleepover business, we watched The Exorcist. You know, the old Linda Blair one. Really creepy. I didn't sleep. The second night we all told our parents that Katie's mum was going to drive us to the movies. We all got money for the movies and promptly walked down the strip to go and get junk food at the store. Now, I wish I could say that we're aware of the surroundings, but we're not. We're absolutely oblivious of the man behind us, who followed us all the way back to the home. I feel that I should mention that Katie's parents were loaded, had a huge property with numerous buildings and broken down cars that her dad was remodeling. Their home had a large open kitchen, dining and living room. There were no walls and the whole room was lined with windows. There were 2 doors, front and back. The day went just as planned. We get our junk food and made it home safely. We made pizza in the oven, and for some reason, one of the girls turned on the TV to the news channel. As we were eating, we heard a story about staying indoors, because there's a report of a suspicious man walking the strip. That's it, suspicious man. We laugh and joke about it. Fast forward a few hours. I don't remember what happened, but as girls do, someone said something that hurt Julie's feelings and she stormed out of the home. I went after her and opened the front door just in time to see her lighting up a cigarette. I sat with her on the bench while she spoke about the other 2. Suddenly, the air gets thick with anxiety. Julie felt it too. I quietly asked if she felt as though we were being watched. She responded with a tiny nod, and then we're blinded. Someone was in a car in the driveway with bright lights on us. My heart was racing as I stood up and pulled Julie out of the spot she seemed to be stuck in. As we turned and ran inside, the man made a sound. I can't describe this sound other than a high-pitched squeal turning to a growl. I was scared beyond all reason, but I somehow managed to get myself, Julie, back inside. As soon as we get inside, the headlights went off and it's pitch black again. I locked the door, turned the light off. By this time, Julie had regained most of her composure to tell the other two what had happened, as I frantically checked the back door and turn off all the lights. I told them to shut up and listen by the back door. I heard the car door close as I was praying to every god that he would go away. Then, right next to my head, the door handle begins to turn slowly, then frantically. I crawled away from the door and moved to where my friends are. For the next 2 or 3 hours, we sat as still as stone, listening to this man banging on every single window trying to get inside. The phone was located across the room, right next to 2 windows. Finally, I get up, I have the courage and run to the phone and call my mum. I told her that we're all alone, and someone's trying to get in. I hung up with her and waited. The banging sound now suddenly stops. We sat and waited, listening to him get in his car, and then the sound of that squeal, it turns into a growl. Really piercing. Then he's gone. The mum and stepdad showed up and checked out the whole place. They found tire tracks, but that was it. We know he was there for a while. The truly scary part was the scratch marks all over the doors and windows. It almost looks as though a human could not have made it. Needless to say, Katie spent the rest of the weekend at Nikki's house and had a great story for her parents when they got home. Our parents didn't punish us for lying. I guess it's hours of torture at this weird person or whatever it was enough. We made a police report, but they never found anything. I just don't understand the almost inhuman sounds that he made and the scratch marks. That's the part that scares me to this day. Backpacking in the Yukon, we met this dude named Carl in Dawson at a free dinner put on by the town church. He said to my friend and I, who were both girls, "Where are we staying?" We said we're in the backcountry camping in a safe place. Then he went on to say that he knows the entire area like the back of his hand. He then wanted specifics. We lied, and we said that we're at a main campsite. We finish our dinner, tried to run out of there, but he corners us, offering to give us a ride back to the campsite. Luckily, we have a car, so said no thanks, and tried to make a run for it. We got back in our car and started driving down the road to where we were camping. Now it's the Yukon. There's only a few people driving back and forth, and we took a turn onto a gravel road heading north. We realised there's been a truck following us since we left town. We especially noticed once we were on this gravel road with absolutely no service and no emergency services. There are literally no turn-offs on this road. Even if there was, we're in prime bear territory next to a river, so running for it's not even worth it. My friend decides to try and pull a fast one on Carl, so we blitz down the gravel road until we hit snow. The The whole road is covered in snow and ice, and we can't go much further in the pace that she's set. We see a campsite ahead of us, blitz it there, and park the car on the far side of the road to hopefully confuse the guy. We grab our tents, sleeping bags, food, and everything warm within our vicinity and run for it. We saw the campsite had a shelter in the middle. We knew that we had to get warm quickly, so the game plan was to run to the shelter, get fully dressed, prepare to sleep in the snow embankment. However, once we get to the shelter, we bump into a family of 12 people. We ran into the shelter swearing, cursing, and freaking out because we felt that it was so creepy Carl was after us. So once we turned around and saw the faces staring at us in amazement, we calmed down and tried and explain the situation. From the moment we utter the words, there's a man that's been following us for at least 100 kilometers. Everybody steps up. All of the men get up with their knives running outside. The woman took us in. They had seen a dense patch of trees in the northeast corner of the campsite and knew that all of us could hide within the trees without fear of being found. As we run into safety, we can hear the men yelling at Carl. There were loud noises, a car alarm, then complete silence. We knew the alarm belonged to us. It's our car. My friend and I stared at each other with tears in our eyes. We're in the northern part of the Yukon, in the snow at -10. We've just been followed from what we thought was going to be a free dinner from the local church. After about 30 minutes, the other woman decides it's time to return to the shelter and find the men. We turned and found the men safe and sound. Apparently, Carl had told them that we were none of their business, and that we wronged him in some sort of manner as he broke our car window, and then turned around to leave. One of the guys had a car, so had followed him down a good 20 kilometers before turning back. The woman invited my friend and I to sleep on their campsite, and we gladly obliged. We woke up the next morning safe and sound in the middle of the Yukon without cell or emergency services. We had a giant appreciation for finding them. Thank God we did. I was once fishing with a friend. We're in a lake in the middle of nowhere, and not a soul around. We had parked a few miles away, and had to walk through the dense woods with our gear to get there. It's about a 30-minute walk with the gear. To paint a picture, once you get to the lake, the trees open up, so you can see the lake around you, but no further through the trees. You lose cell reception during the car ride, about half an hour away. A very secluded feeling, I must say. We've been here all day. A good 6 hours of daylight, not a soul around. It starts to get dark around 7:30, so we make a fire pit. Around 10 PM, we put the fire out. It's pitch black outside. My friend has just recast his rods after I'm done with mine, so we could settle in for the night. We stay up until around 1 AM, just cracking jokes and eating food. Only the sounds of nature, birds, owls and whatnot, and the wind around us. After we turned the tent light off about 1 AM, we heard zipping noises coming from outside. Just two. My friend nudges me and grabs a small bat, looks outside and there's nothing there. 10 minutes go by. We're very confused as to what the noise was. We then hear a splash. We both jump up and run outside, but there was nothing visible in the water, no lights or people around from what we could see. We both get into our tent. By this time, I'm terrified, clutching onto a bat. We have no option but to stay. The car is too far away and the woods are too dense to walk through during the night, especially if someone is out there. Whilst we're inside, a very deep male voice sighed next to the tent. "You're not supposed to be there." My friend said, "Who's that?" There's no reply. We get up and look. Nobody's there. No noises of someone walking away. No nothing. We turn to the torches, quickly gathering them, looking around, shining in every direction. We stood there for about 5 minutes just checking, hoping to find some source of it to get an explanation. There's nothing. We go back to bed and don't sleep. We spoke very, very quietly for the next 6 hours. Now 6 AM eventually came, and the sun's out. We get the hell out of there. We went outside. There's blood on the trees, and a single footprint in the fire pit we had made the night prior that did not belong to either of us. I spent more than my fair time alone in the woods, but one occasion definitely stands out as the creepiest thing I've experienced for a while, and when no one else was around. I have a friend that has 40 acres out of town that he has slowly converted into a farm for his family. Years ago, when he mostly only had a dozen or so chickens out there, I spent a few months living on the property in a tent while I began seasonal work. At the time, the property was decades neglected, overgrown pasture land with a few clumps of denser woods. I had set up my tent right in the middle of the property, in a small clearing between two densely wooded areas. My friend would come by once a day to feed the animals. Other than that, I have zero chance of seeing another human unless I leave the property. I mean, I can't lie, I really enjoy the solitude and being taken to observe nature in a way that I've never really done before. When the incident occurred, I'd been living out there for about 2 months, so I was well used to the sounds of nature outside my tent. I'd even gotten to the point where I was so used to the sounds of nature outside my tent at night, I'd gotten to the point where I wouldn't even bother to get out of the tent and look if a small animal was walking my way around the tent at night. I'd even gotten used to the sound of that roof, where it pumped sometimes from the wind. My friend had been short on nails while he was building the roof over the pump, so the southeast corner wasn't nailed down, and a strong wind would cause the corner of the corrugated metal roof to peel, and then crash down loudly when the wind stopped. It was about 200 feet away from my tent, so it had caused me to jump a bit when I first moved out there. But within a month, it had just been another sound outside my tent. It was somewhat comforting though, like somebody who lives in a big city that can't sleep without the sounds of traffic outside their window. I probably helped myself by the fact that I knew it was paired with the sound of wind blowing through the trees. So on one night, I'm tucked inside my sleeping bag, starting to drift off when I hear the shed corner come crashing down. Nothing to worry about. I probably didn't even open my eyes, but then I hear what sounds like a person mimicking the sound of the shed. right outside my tent. My blood freezes in my veins, my eyes open wide in the darkness. I hold perfectly still. I know that my friend has already come and gone hours before. I am alone on a piece of land that is large enough that there is no reason for a person to accidentally end up next to my tent in the middle of the night. After a few moments, the wind makes the shed roof crash again. And again, I hear a person mimicking the crashing sound a few seconds after. I called out and say, "Is anyone there?" Zero reply. I then hear the sound of the crashing a third time, but this time there was no mimicking sound, so I'm out of my sleeping bag, out of my tent, flashlight in one hand, camping knife in the other. I then shine my flashlight right out of my tent to where the sound is coming from. I need to see who is making the fake crashing sound. I see nothing. Now it's on the edge of the woods, but the sound had been so close. I can see through the brush well enough to tell that there isn't a person behind the bush and low branches. I'm still looking at the ground, and none of the dead leaves look partially disturbed. I'm trying to figure out how far somebody could have moved at a slow enough pace to not make enough sound for me to hear their footsteps on the leaf litter. That's when it crashes again. And I hear some more fake crashing sounds right next to me, where I'm 100% positive there's a person standing. At this point, my heart is beating a mile a minute. I'm getting ready to believe in the supernatural. Eventually I had enough and went back to sleep. I still didn't know what was making them sounds.